All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And as they straggle in, I'll invite people in. But welcome to our presentation here. We're talking about maximizing hybrid learning. Does having more cameras matter? My name is Duterte. I handle the Pacific Northwest, so Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
I'm Jordan Scales. I handle Arizona and Nevada for both education and state and local government.
And then we have a colleague in the back.
Ty in the back as well.
Ty Golding, handle the Rocky Mountain States.
All right, so pandemic started about 5 years ago. And when the pandemic started, all the schools and universities scrambled, what are we going to do with our classrooms? And one thing that they did was they installed what we're calling high flex classrooms. Installing cameras in classrooms so that the students can be remote, teachers can come in and present and still teach class. Now we have the benefit of 5 years of hindsight, and now you're taking a look at the technology and going, is this technology really working for me? So what we're going to do for today is we're going to take a look at the challenges that were presented with installing cameras in classrooms, and then our solution. We're going to take a look at it, and then we're going to do a demo. We're actually connected to our Cypress, California office, and you're going to see how it works. And then afterwards, if you want us to come over and do an actual demo in your lecture halls, in your classrooms, we're more than welcome to do that. So we're going to go through some of the challenges that were presented with remote learning. So what you're seeing here is a typical lecture hall. Right? We have a camera installed way in the back, and some of the challenges for that is it's not really effective for remote students. They don't feel like they're really part of the classroom, and with the camera so far back, a lot of times it's the video is pixelated, subpar. They can't really make out what's on the chalkboard or the whiteboard that you see there. And then we have some previous technologies of camera tracking where you're forcing the professor to wear a lanyard. A lot of times those lanyards have infrared LEDs, and the challenge with that is if you're in front or beside a window, the sun is a giant infrared source. So it has a very hard time tracking it. And then some of the older technologies as well, we put mats on the ground, so when they step on a mat, the camera knows where they're currently at. All right, so a few other things, a few other challenges are the camera shot limitations. All right, a wide shot, again, the students don't really feel like they're part of the conversation, they're part of the class. And then as you can see there, the whiteboard is not very legible. And another challenge is if you have a camera that's installed like this, is forcing the professor to call up camera presets. Another way to do this would be to have a remote or a camera operator, but that gets really expensive depending on the number of lecture halls that you have. And then another challenge would be in a space that has a mixed use. So it can be a training room one time, it can be a classroom, it can be a conference room. How do we mic up that space? How do we do the shots with the cameras?
Yeah, and I mean, we all know to teach an instructor to touch a button is pretty hard to get them to do, especially if it says preset 1, preset 2, preset 3. I probably assume most of you guys know it just ain't gonna happen, at best. You're setting the shot and just leaving it. As much work as you guys do to give them those options to create a good experience, it's hard to teach teachers to learn. So we've all come across that, right?
All right, so just some of our solutions and what we're able to do. We offer solutions that are engaging. It means that remote participants, remote students feel like they're part of the learning, right? And you'll see that in a minute because we'll hook up to Cypress. You'll get a far end experience. So this is the experience that a student will get. And then visual AI is what we're calling the way that our cameras behave. Our cameras will actually take a look at a face and decide which camera to use. We're not going to demonstrate that for today. That's a little more complex, and it's more of a conference room type of setup. What we're going to demonstrate today would be more of a classroom type of setup. So if you want to know what that looks like, we're more than happy to do a demo for you. And also, our solutions are scalable. So we can start off with one camera and then grow accordingly. You can have a maximum of 12 cameras in a room.
Do you guys actually have that out there anywhere?
12 cameras? We do.
Yeah,
I
we
think
do.
Cypress has what? Tad, how many cameras does Cypress have?
In this room, since it is configurable, we have different furniture layouts. We have a total of 11, actually. One is the group framing, is what you're seeing me now, as a kind of wide shot. And that's a Hudley camera we're plugging in. And then the rest of our cameras are all the way around, 4 in the front, 2 on each side, and 2 in the back.
And yeah, I have a couple of schools that are currently installing them. They're around 7 to 8 cameras in those spaces. And then we have some government courtrooms. These work really well in, because a lot of the courtrooms, you need an operator. And as long as we're able to triangulate where the people are when they're speaking, we can make the broadcast switches happen. Yeah.
All right, now we're going to discuss some phrases here that we'll be using. So presenter tracking on the upper left is pretty self-explanatory. This is the professor, the teacher that's in front, and wherever they move in the space, you're able to track their movement. Different compositions, so you could do picture-in-picture. So for example, you have a question and answer session. You could have the professor or the whiteboard or your presentation up in the larger picture, and then a picture-in-picture of the professor or the entire classroom in the smaller picture. And group framing means that our cameras will pan, tilt, zoom according to the number of participants that's in the room. All right, so again, single camera, this is for the presenter. Again, they're tracking the presenter, the professor as they move around the room, and then multi-camera is what you're seeing there. Again, you've got the professor up on the larger picture, and then a student that's possibly raising a question. Here's a solution, 4 different cameras. The main difference between these cameras is if you look at the base of the camera, there's another camera that's installed on here. That's how you know that it's the intelligent series, the I-12 and I-20. And then these don't have that camera that's on the base. These are just PTZ cameras, and we have other ways to control it. But basically, the camera on the base sees the entire room, and depending on what mode that you put them in, the cameras act differently. The PTZ camera on top acts differently.
Typically in installs, the majority of your cameras are going to be just the standard PTZs, and then you'll have like 1 or 2 eyes that help to do the visual tracking for spaces that need to have like group framing and things of that sort.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does, if you have got a couple in your system, multi-camera setups, does the eye from the I-20 model, for example, does that affect what the non-eye cameras are doing? Or is it all, it only affects the one that's...
That one would affect just the one. The other ones do use some visual, but in terms of group framing and presenter tracking, the intelligence is used on that side. These other ones the triggers are based off of audio cues. So you need XYZ coordinates or hardwired mics, and you know this gating info is coming from this shot in your floor plan.
Thanks.
Can you pull that lower camera out as a separate video feed?
I believe you can. Yeah.
I know you could on the original Automate,
Yes.
but these are the new ones. And
Yeah, you can.
so there's 2 outputs?
No, it's going to be a picture-in-picture. Let's ask them just to make sure, because I know I've seen the window before.
Well, the original ones had, there were 2 physical outputs that you could
2
transfer.
NDI streams
Well, they were.
or 2 SDI?
SDI.
Yeah, okay.
Ted?
Let's ask that.
Tad, can you confirm that? Are you able to pull not just the main camera, but the reference camera and feed it to something else? I know you can with the multi-camera switching, but go ahead.
Yeah, with the multi-camera camera, but with the single camera by itself, we do have USB, NDI, SDI, and HDMI, but that's just the main output. It's not going to be the reference shot. You can see the reference shot when you use the camera manager, but pulling it out of the camera itself, not on the new versions.
Yeah.
And that's the same with Automate VX?
Well, Automate VX, you can get any shot you want, so it's really not, it's not pertinent because you're basically pulling the shot from the camera, whether it's PTZ or the presenter tracker. So you wouldn't be pulling reference when you're using an Automate system with the intelligent camera.
Okay.
So the question, so when we say reference camera, we mean the base camera, and the main camera is the PTZ camera. So right now with
So
the,
reason,
go ahead, Ted.
sorry, I was gonna say, the reason for the reference camera is because let's say that you're zoomed in to a participant, let's say there's 3 people at the table, and they're zoomed in, and we're framing them at the table, 3 people. If somebody else walks in, when you're already zoomed in, you're not gonna be able to tell that somebody new walked in, so you can zoom out. So that's what the reference camera is there for. It just gives us a wide shot of the whole room, so we can kind of see what's going on overall.
Right. I just want to be able to access that feed if I want it. I mean, because we could on the original Automate cameras.
So is that feed accessible even though you wouldn't use it, Tab?
I'll have to double check on that because it might be available through NDI possibly, but I'll have to double check and circle back with you guys on that.
Okay.
Question.
I think you can take it as a screen,
I'm sorry, as a what?
an H.264 screen.
Yeah, that's what because we're able to access it through our camera manager, which is a software that we're using to be able to see what the cameras see. But we're not, one thing that Blake is correct, that we did take out that capability, because before our cameras had 2 outputs, or some of our cameras had 2 outputs. One is the reference and one is the main camera. All right. So what I'm going to show you is just a video, kind of set you up for our demonstration. And it's going to show a few things here. Come on. Oh.
These are really creepy CGI humans, by the way.
Yeah, so what this is showing is it's a camera following the instructor with a closer shot. You'll see the larger picture kind of emulates what the reference camera sees, and then the right emulates what the main camera is seeing, and that's what is being sent to the other side. Now, here's another challenge, is what happens when someone walks in front of the camera, right? It completely ignores that person walking in front and concentrates only on the professor that's in front of the classroom. And then the third way is what happens if a student or a guest speaker comes up to present. So now we're doing presenter tracking, and it's going to concentrate on both and keep them in the shot at the same time. Right, there it is, so it's keeping both in the shot. And then the fourth scenario is what happens if you're in front of a display and that display has a person that's in front of it. We can set up blocking zones so it completely ignores that display or that projector. And you can see it there. It's ignoring the person that's shown on the screen. And then fifth and final scenario is a preset zone. So professor walks in front of a whiteboard or maybe a screen, and you want it to concentrate only on them. And they walk out of that site. Here it is. So he walks in front. And it shows the whiteboard and the professor. So those are just some of the scenarios that we're able to do. And now we're going to hand it over to Tad and do a demo. All right, Tad, so you're up on the projection screen right now. This is, again, our Cypress, California office. It's set up in a classroom type of environment. And we have Tad there in front, and then Kim, who's helping us out. Go ahead, Tad.
All right, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. I just wanted to have tracking is off right now, and I just wanted to kind of show you the room and what we're dealing with right now. So we have the ability to change this room to different configuration and layouts. Currently, we have it in what we call the classroom type of style or room, right? We have 4 rows. We have a table with 2 chairs. And I'm gonna go ahead and right now we have a default shot or a default camera, which is tracking off. Let me go and turn tracking on for you guys. So as soon as I turn tracking on, now we're gonna get a shot of me. And we particularly set this room up to have 2 people shots. We can do single person shots if we wanted to, but that's just the way that we decided to set it up. So it's completely up to you how you design it. I also have Kim in the room. Hello, Kim.
Good morning, Professor Bad.
Thank you. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about any classes coming up this week?
Yes, we have quite a few in-person classes here in our Cypress office, and one of them is our Intelligent Video Engineering class that'll be starting here soon.
Cool, thank you, Kim. As you can see, I've now walked to the front of the room where now I have my presenter tracking camera active. But as you can see before, when we switch from people back and forth, we have a nice clean production cut switch, and we don't show camera movement when we switch between the people in the audience or whoever. So right now, I'm in the front of the room, and I've triggered one of our intelligent cameras in the back. It's an i20. So it is a presenter tracker camera. So basically, it does follow me as I'm giving my presentation. And I've also created a preset zone over here for you guys. So as I walk in over here to this whiteboard, you can see the camera now is not moving. So I can write things down so that there's no movement of camera, which might distract from me writing something down on the whiteboard. Once I move away from the whiteboard, I'm moving away from the preset zone. Now I'm back to presenter tracker. So I'm a professor now, and I'm giving my presentation, and the camera is tracking me, as you saw in the video here. Any questions on that so far?
Go ahead.
If you're doing can you hear me or do you gotta relay it? Yeah, my question is if you're doing like a back and forth with a student in the class, does it handle that? Does it switch back and forth? Does it go wide or does it just stay on you? Did you catch that?
So right now, let's say that I have a couple different options I can show you in just a moment. We have something called Q&A mode. Let me just, before I turn that on, Kim, if you were to tell us a little bit about the kind of, foods that we serve here for the students sometimes.
Yes, for every class we have here in person in Cypress, we offer breakfast and lunch. Tomorrow we'll be having tacos for our class, and we have a variety of sandwiches, menus from breakfast, lunch, breakfast tacos, anything you would like, we have it.
Awesome, thank you. So as you can see, basically in a framing mode, anybody who talks is going to frame them in the whole image, and it's going to switch to them automatically there. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our touch panel here, and I'm going to recall a different scenario. So that's how we can control things easily by just pressing the button here on the touch panel. I'm going to put this in what we call Q&A mode. So this is a mode that basically frames the presenter. So I'm a presenter, and now let's say if somebody in the audience has a question. I know, Kim, that we already talked about the food, but I was wondering, what is your favorite part of this automate system here?
My favorite part, Professor, of this automate system is the room controls. So every scenario, based on the type of meeting you're having in this particular room, it could be a classroom setup, a large U-shape, or a small U-shape. And for someone like myself, who is not necessarily technically sound, our feature that we've established here is very easy and user-friendly for me to use.
Perfect, thank you. So as you can see, when somebody has a question in the audience, that window pops up and showing who has the question. That window is completely configurable as far as size and how you want to place that. This is how we decided to put it in this situation. We also have another option too. Let's say you wanted to show the whole room only. We have something called room view mode. So right now, basically, I have a shot of the whole room or classroom in the corner. Again, that can be any size you want. And now the person talking is going to be on the main screen. So if Kim were to update us on anything this week we have coming up, you'll see that she'll go in the full screen.
Yes, Professor Thad, we have quite a few demos, meetings, and trainings here in our Cypress office and in our training rooms.
Awesome, perfect, thank you. So that is kind of different configurations, and all I did was press a button here on the touch screen, and I'm going to go ahead and back to full screen, which is the presenter or whoever is talking in the audience.
Question?
Yeah, so watching that, I noticed that when she finished talking, her pit disappears. Was the switching decision made on the instructor beginning to talk again, or her stopping? It was very fast.
Okay, Tad, I'm not sure if you're able to hear that. Were you able to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I heard that. So the fact, as you can see right now, it went to a default shot because nobody was talking. That's why you saw the shot go to a wide shot of the room. We have it set, I'll answer the question in just a moment, but we have that default shot when nobody's talking set to 20 seconds in this room, but you can adjust the timing. So if nobody were to speak, it goes to a shot, and we decided to be a kind of a wide shot. So when I was talking in the Q&A mode, as soon as the participant in the audience were to ask a question, they pop up in the window. The window will go away as soon as I start talking. So I basically took control back. So that's why the window went away, because I started to talk and answer the question, and then that window would go away unless somebody else then had a question. So I was triggering that by my audio here in the front.
Yeah, and you can set the number of seconds too before it switches.
Great, thanks.
Yes, correct. You can adjust a lot of the settings on the system, correct?
Oh, go ahead.
How does the whiteboard, so we have big centralized whiteboards in the front center of the room. How does that whiteboard zone work if it's 12 feet wide and it locks in on that, and the instructor's moving back and forth? How does that?
So, go ahead.
So what you could do is, that zone would be your preset zone. So while they're in that zone, you could have it pull out to a shot that fits in frame. Like, hey, whenever they're in this area, you're not going to track them. You're just going to show this exact shot so we can see the whole whiteboard. But then as they step out to either side, you can then have it follow on the right or follow on the left to continue to track them.
And the way that it works is you use a software to draw boxes
Right.
around the area that you want the camera to concentrate on.
And that is a feature that you can use just with the i20 by itself. You don't need the full automated VX. You could just get the intelligent camera, a single one, and put it in the room to do that.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
For the software, you set your exclusion zones and such. Does that have hooks that you tie to the Simple Sharp or however you're doing your programming?
To take them on or off?
Right. Are
To
you
have-
stuck to using the API that's in your panel, or like my programmer can write his own? You know who my programmer is.
Yes, he would be able
So
to.
Mike can
Well,
write his own program for that?
let's ask that, because we do have an API. What I don't know is, can you recall different presets
Yeah,
for
if you
your
wanted
zone
to
preset?
do something outside of the parameters that you can set within your software.
Right. Thad, did you catch that?
I believe so, yeah. So the question was, can you recall different presets or different tracking zones? The answer is not today. It is coming. The product team is working on that. So how that works is, right now you can see me. I'm in a presenter tracking zone that I define through the software. So I'm going to basically draw a rectangle on where I want the camera to follow me. Okay. So right now I'm in the triangle that the rectangle that I drew. Also, you see here I have a display behind me, and there might be people on that display. So I don't want to switch to them, so I have them blocked out. So we draw blocking zones, right? As I can turn around as well, and it will still track me. So once it kind of, tracks me, it's going to keep tracking me basically as a body. Now let's say I'm going here to the preset zone. I can have up to 4 preset zones in this tracking area. So this is just one that I decided to have here. Now, what happens if I walk out of the presenter area completely? The camera is still going to track me here, but I'm walking out of the presenter area. So what you'll see in a moment is the camera now has lost me because I'm out of the zone. So it will go to what is defined as a default shot when you lose the participant or the tracking person. So it lost me, it went to a shot that I defined, which is a wide shot. And now once I walk back into the tracking zone that I defined with the software, it's now tracking me again. But in the future, in coming up in later firmware, we're gonna allow you to recall different tracking zones. So let's say the furniture moves around and I wanna have a preset here with the whiteboard, but let's say I move the furniture to a different configuration. I wanna have a different whiteboard in a different location. I can recall that through a preset. We use API calls. We also control through Visca over TCP or RS-232.
Did that answer your question?
Close enough, yeah.
Okay, all right. Question?
So you have 2 people in this room right now. What happens if you have 50 people in the room, and how do you distinguish between background conversations and someone actually asking a question?
Catch that? How does the room distinguish through like the threshold between background conversations compared to?
I gotcha. Sorry for the pause. I wanted to wait till the shot went to a default shot so I can explain that. As you can see, I'm walking around, and the reason why the camera is not switching to me and you can still hear me is because in the software, which I'll show you in a little bit, is I've defined where I want a camera to go to a person, and I've defined that around the tables only. Right now, I'm outside of that bubble that I drew. So I drew a bubble on each table, so if a table person were to talk, it's gonna go to them. But right now, you can see me in the corner. I'm not triggering any camera shots because I'm outside of the audio zone. So that's how it knows where to take a camera shot, is where you define it in the software. So I'll go ahead and sit down in one of the positions. So now I'm sitting down at one of the positions in the back. I'm in the 3rd row. And as you can see, I'm in an audio zone now, so it's going to trigger a camera on me, 2-person shot. It could be 1 or 3 or 4, it's up to you. But as you can see now, it triggers the shot here because I now moved into an audio zone defined in the software.
I think you were kind of thinking like, what is the volume level? Are you able to set a volume level threshold? Like, hey, at this point, don't, chatter, don't go to that switching, but, right, is that possible to set the threshold of the gating? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The audio threshold is something you can set, and in this room, we have it, I think, to 40 dB or something like that. The reason you want to adjust that is, let's say you don't want somebody playing with their paper or their computer typing, and all of a sudden the shot gets triggered to them because it heard some kind of audio. So there is thresholds that you can define to trigger audio for the camera, yes.
And you can set it to different behaviors where one talker has to stop talking before it goes to the next talker. So you can set that behavior. Or you can do chairman priority, where if somebody talks in a particular area, it immediately cuts to them, even if somebody else is talking. So you can set that behavior.
How does it handle 2 people in the audience talking? Like, not chatter, but talking?
oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Are we able to show conversation mode, Tad?
Yes, I'm going to turn conversation mode on now. So I just turned it on, and so I am speaking here. And Kim, you said there was some traffic today. I mean, was that a lot of traffic? Was there an accident going on?
Yes, sorry about that. Sorry for my delay, Professor Thad. There was quite a bit of traffic. Welcome to Southern California, but I'm here, made it to class on time.
Oh, appreciate it, thank you. So as you can see, the last 2 people will go side by side in conversation mode. So if you have another person in the room, they would then be side by side. Once that person stops talking, and then goes to a single person. So that's the conversation mode option that you have, a side-by-side view. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off now.
How many of these modes can be active at the same time? Because, I mean, I think you mentioned before having faculty recall presets, or having anybody recall presets is a non-starter. In my mind, knowing my faculty, recalling modes is a non-starter. They would want all of this all the time because they don't know the nature of that particular class, how it's going to go.
Right. So Thad, can you have all those modes on at the same time, right? I think we configured it in a way to demo where it's one by one, right? But is it possible to have all those modes on or, right, elegantly do something like that?
You can create different layouts. So in the background, we're using Wirecast. So you can have multiple windows showing different scenarios. But to have all these features on at the same time, no, because it would be difficult for the system to know, okay, I'm doing a conversation mode on this window, and then I'm doing something else on this window. So you have to pick and choose what configuration. If you want to have everything kind of working in one, that's a configuration as a whole. Basically, you'd have to program that in with multiple windows and multiple layouts, as we call them.
Now you could do an RFID tied to the teacher's lanyard or key card and say, hey, you guys need to tell us what kind of mode you'd like to have for your sessions. We'll tie that into your RFID. You just tap it into the class and, you know, go that way.
So just to follow up to that, just so I'm clear on it, like, let's say an example is you were an instructor at the front of the room and we were watching you get tracked and you made your point and then you got back to the podium and you said, okay, go discuss this thing amongst yourselves or have some kind of conversation about it. I think what I'm curious is, will it, once that instructor stops talking, will it then switch to this and start doing that thing, or is it independent of camera switching? Like, can you, yeah, I guess it's similar to what the guy just asked. Yeah, is that possible, that scenario?
Yeah, it'll automatically,
Without
you can have multiple layouts, right? So for example, let's say you had one window that showed the whole room or certain sections of the room. When I'm here talking, basically the camera's gonna go on me. If somebody were to walk into the presenter zone area, it automatically is going to recall that shot, and that could be on a separate window, right? So if I get up and I'm gonna say, okay, I have something to say, I have a presentation, everybody. So now I just walk to the front of the room and it just triggered the camera on one window. You can have a separate window that shows, you know, the conversation of other people in the classroom at the table. So this gets automatically triggered once I'm in this tracking zone. Once I leave the tracking zone and walk and sit back down again, then basically I'm triggering another audio area, so that it goes back to me. So it's all kind of automatic.
Right, the server is a multi-window processor, so you truly could have every feed live at the same time if you wanted to, right? That would get a little jumbled, but like courtrooms sometimes just want it always set like that. Yeah.
What you just did explicitly answered my question. Thank you.
Perfect.
Would you think that most faculty would want that in their classroom if they're using these, you know? Because that's what I think some of my faculty would want. They want to.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to flow, and the camera flows with them, and that was actually quite a good transition.
Right, nice.
Okay. And the next thing I want to go over are multi-purpose spaces, right? You might have, have a training room one day and then a conference room another. What we can do is we can put up an overlay on the video so the facilities can then move the tables where they need to be. Can you show that, Ted?
Yeah, absolutely. So just real quick, I'm going to plug in my Air Media adapter, just a USB-C connection in my computer just to share to the meeting. I want to show you what my interface looks like real quick, and then I'll press the buttons to kind of show you what we're doing here.
You're getting a behind the scenes look. That's it.
Are you going to be handing
Right,
those
so
out as
right
we
now,
walk
this is
out the
my
door?
interface.
Exactly.
Very, very basic. We want to keep it basic for customers here, for users. So Kim, for example, would come in here and would just press one of these buttons to recall a different type of room configuration so we know how to move the furniture. Let me go ahead and I'm going to press here the boardroom scenario here. I'm going to press boardroom, and now I'm going to stop sharing so you can see a full screen. And as you can see, in real time, I have these lines that I can then move these tables so I can match the boardroom layout, for example. And once I hit confirm on my touch panel here, let me start sharing again real quick. So once I move the tables to the designated area, and I go ahead and press confirm, then basically that will then switch all the cameras and the configurations, and it will know that people are sitting around the boardroom. So this really helps when, when there's a lot of different movement of furniture and you don't want to have tape on the ground, and you want to make sure that everything is moved to the correct location. So it's a very useful tool.
Questions on that?
I'll show you another U-shaped here. We have another U-shaped one here. Let me go and press that for you guys. I'll stop sharing so you can see full screen. So here's another U-shaped configuration we have. So again, I can move these tables to match that configuration. I hit apply, and now everything knows that I'm in that configuration, and I can start to do auto tracking. And that's it, just a single button press, and you can change the room over pretty quickly.
All right. Now, can you show us the behind the scenes on audio tracking?
The software, yeah.
Oh boy, this is my favorite part. Let me show you guys really what's going on behind this.
We get to geek out a little bit.
The meat and potatoes.
So basically running the whole show is a server, okay? And this server has a web interface, as you can see here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop switching right now, auto switching, and I'm gonna go into the configuration here. So this is actually our room that we're in right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start switching here on the top left here. So what you're gonna start to see is, here is my audio zone, and here is the microphones. I have 6 microphones in this room. Obviously, it's overkill for the audio, but we need those microphones to distinguish between individual shots. That's why we have 6 of them. We have Shure MXA 920s, and those are providing us with just positional data. So we're not actually using the audio to drive camera location. We're just using the direct XYZ azimuth information from the microphone. So Kim, if you were to tell us a little bit about what you have planned today.
Today, shortly after this meeting, the screen that Thad showed previously with the touch panel, I will be using the touch panel to do a new room configuration for an upcoming demo shortly after this meeting.
Perfect. I'm going to walk to the front, and you guys can see all of those dots in the front there. They're all basically grouped together. So if I walk into any of this area up front, it's going to recall the presenter tracker that we're seeing right now. And again, it's all built into the camera. If I go back again to this preset zone, that's still there because it's built in to the camera itself. So the camera is doing all of the AI in this position right here. I'm just recalling the camera. So all those dots in the front are, if I speak anywhere in that area, it's going to recall the presenter tracker camera. So I'm going to go ahead and sit down now in the front. So now I'm in the front, so you can see that now we have that round radius there on position number 10. That's me, so the camera is going to switch to me. And you can see which camera is calling me. It's up here, number 4. We have 2 cameras stacked, by the way. You might not see it here because they're stacked one on top of another. The reason we have 2 cameras in each location is if there was a single shot of me and there was a person right next to me, I don't want to wait an extra time for me to stop talking and the camera to go to them, because it's going to take time. So that's why we always have 2 cameras in each location to kind of be a backup, as it were, so we can have one that's ready. The way that things work on our system is we do not show movement of camera. So we're not going to show that other person until the camera is in position, then we turn the video on. So that's why we have kind of 2 cameras stacked on top of each other.
Can I get a clarity on that? So like you're saying, if the other person in the room started talking over you and you stopped to let her finish, it would find her and switch? Is that basically what you were describing?
Yes, basically. Okay. So right now it's there's a 2-person shot that you can see. So I have, if I'm talking within this bubble here, it's going to recall a camera. But let's say the person next to me is using the same two cameras, number 4 at the top and number 5. If they wanted to get a quick shot of that person, if I didn't have two cameras, we would have to freeze the frame here, move the camera in position to show this position number 2, and then show the video. So that might take an extra second or two as opposed to just showing them when they're speaking right away.
Yeah, the two cameras are used so that you can do the clean cuts, right, versus pan tilt zooming, which makes everybody dizzy.
No, I get you. But that's true whether that person's sitting next to him or down the road, right? That's what I didn't get, was why that was not a significant part of that scenario, was it?
So,
Yes, I just moved to the back. I just moved to another position here.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just going to be a quicker switch. If I only had one camera, it would take a lot longer for the person in front of me, which I was just sitting at, than a row right behind them, because we're using the same cameras. In the top right, you see number 4 is active right now. So number 4 camera is also being used for the person in front of me. And if there was only one camera for me and the person in front of me, it would take a lot longer for the switch because we have to get the camera in position and then turn the video on.
Got it, thank you.
What's the minimum number of microphones you need in a space to be able to do that audio triangulation? And then also, what manufacturers can you work with? For instance, I use Yamaha DSCS panels.
Yep. Do you hear that, Tad? What microphones can you use, and what is the minimum number of microphones for a space?
Yeah, sorry, moving up to the front here. So we support many manufacturers. We support Sennheiser, Yamaha, Shure. There's actually about 10 or 12, so we can get you a list of those. We also support multiple microphones, so we can have tabletop microphones. We don't need to use ceiling mics. We can use discussion systems. So we have a bunch of them that I can't name off the top of my head, but there are multiple that we support. And again, we support Lobes, we support XYZ on certain microphones, and also, like I said, discussions, lapel mics, whatever, any kind of mics you want, basically. It just takes the audio information from the DSP or directly from the microphone itself.
And Dad, how many ceiling mics is required in order, as a minimum? Can we do one in a room if it's sized appropriately?
That's a good question. So there's no real limit. The limit is how many individual shots you want to have. Can that microphone distinguish between myself or the person sitting right next to me and the person sitting next to them? If you have only one microphone, it's going to be hard to distinguish individual shots if those people start to move farther away from the microphone. But luckily, we have, this is designer software that you're seeing here, and this is just live in a system. But all this that you're seeing now is something that you could design a system with ahead of time. And we have an option here. If you go to View, there's this option here called Proximity Check. Proximity Check, if I enable that, will tell me if the separation between each person is too much or not enough for a microphone. So I can actually, before I even load this system into a live system, I can actually, with my designer tool, I can actually see if I have enough microphones, basically.
Yeah, the software will tell you, depending on which microphone you use, if two positions are too close to each other or if it's too far to mic up. So you can design that room accordingly. So you'll know if you have enough microphones or not enough
Before you install it.
So let's say position number 1 microphone here, you see here on the top left. If I were to have individual people, so I have, instead of a single, for 2 people, I'm gonna have 1 for each chair. If I use that same microphone and I put 1 person for each chair, and I get to the very right-hand side here on the 3rd table over, it's gonna be tough for that 1 microphone in that location to distinguish between the 2 people sitting between the 2 chairs here at the very end. So that's why you would need more mics to cover individual shots. So it's more of the types of shots that you want. If it's a single shot with 2 people, it's not really a big deal.
Right, you would just want to go wider on a less amount of mics, pretty much.
questions. All right. Well, thank you.
One more thing I want to mention is you see that on the back, one of these is a different color. This is my my presenter tracker camera, the one that has built-in AI. But that can also be changed to a standard PTZ controlled camera through the software if you didn't want to have a presenter for a situation. So those cameras can do either or. They can do double duty on that, just to let you know.
Right, so how many eyes do we have in this room?
One eye, and that's the one in the back that shows me shows the presenter walking in the front of the room. Only one eye.
Okay.
But I also use this eye as a PTZ in another configuration that I use that we call large square, hollow square, which I don't have presenter tracking in that particular configuration, so I turned it into a PTZ. But the one that we're using now, I have it activated as an intelligent camera for presenter tracker.
And you guys can download this software today, start playing with it, throw a drawing in there, line up the origin of your dimensions, throw your mic in there and just start seeing, hey, will this work in a room like this? And get a better understanding.
And if you want just simple presenter tracking, once you have that camera put up, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do all the different zones, the tracking zones, preset zones, and you're up and running.
We have a really good training on this. If you guys do have an interest in getting something like that done, if you are in close proximity to several schools, we could bring it to you possibly, and host it at one of your locations to get everybody involved. Because sometimes in person is it's easier to work it all than everybody hopping on virtually.
All right.
Do you have time for a question or no?
Oh yeah.
It's 9:47.
When do we have to be done?
9:45.
I'm checking in.
Okay, come to our booth. We're more than happy to answer all that, and we do have an I-12 that's at the booth if you want to come and see it. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming over.